Our final guest speaker tonight is Erin Miller from Protect Colorado's Future, here to tell us about Initiative 195 and how you can volunteer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, excited to talk with this crew tonight. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Yeah, as Tiffany was saying, I'm here to talk about Protect Colorado's Future, which is the campaign to get a graduated income tax on the ballot here in Colorado. I'll be pretty brief. I just want to give an overview of kind of like who we are, kind of what got us into this situation, and then how we suggest we get out of it, or at least start to get out of it. My name's Erin. I use she, her, AF pronouns. I'm the field director for Protect Colorado's Future. Like I said, we're a statewide coalition of, I think, 22 orgs. I think we're missing a couple orgs on this chart, but 22 organizations in our steering committee, and then over 50 folks and electeds who have endorsed this measure on our website. So a lot of folks ranging from grassroots advocacy to health providers to childcare providers to tax and policy wonks and kind of everyone in between who are supportive of how we get more revenue here in Colorado. Okay, so just want to touch a little bit on Colorado's fiscal landscape. And I'll just preface it's dire, as I'm sure all the folks in Colorado know. We have seen really high cuts in our budget in the last 2 years. And Colorado's Constitution requires that we have a balanced budget at the end of every session. In order to do that, we have had to make sure that in order to do that, we've had to make really debilitating cuts. This was made even worse by HR 1 that was passed on July 4th of last year, that immediately got Colorado's budget out of whack again. So we had to call a special session in August. We filled that $750 million imbalance. And now in the legislature right now, the Joint Budget Committee is looking at $1.5 billion worth of cuts for the next fiscal year. And when I tell you that the programs that they are cutting are devastating, so the Joint Budget Committee is making these really devastating cuts within healthcare, education, and childcare. And that is exactly what this measure focuses on these programs that are often the first ones to be cut, and the programs that so many Coloradans rely on. Colorado is 50th in the nation when it comes to teacher wage competitiveness, which is horrendous. We're dead last. Healthcare, we're seeing those costs rising faster and faster with inflation. And then obviously childcare, the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program has been completely gutted. And so again, these have real impacts on Coloradans, and that when you're looking at billions with a B of cuts, you're going to see those effects, and we're starting to see those effects, especially in our rural communities when it comes to Medicaid funding, but all over, as Colorado does have an aging population, and we do rely on Medicaid. A lot of us rely on Medicaid. And so just like looking ahead to, we're looking at SNAP administrative costs. We're looking at that added burden, a loss of up to 2.7 billion in federal Medicaid cuts by 2032. And as most of you all know, we have Tabor in place for folks in Colorado, Taxpayer Bill of Rights. The legislature is unable to increase any revenue without it going to the ballot. And so it's really created this stagnation in our legislature where we're unable to properly fund the programs that Coloradans rely on. So the last downer thing I will say is we also have an upside down tax system, right? So we have the combination of a flat income tax rate. Every single person pays the exact same amount of income tax, regardless of how much they make. If they make $1 billion, if they make $25,000. And we also have a regressive sales tax. So our tax system is really unfair. Coloradans with the highest income pay the lowest share of their income in taxes. As per usual, working families have been carrying our state. And we think it's time for the wealthy to pay their fair share and to make our tax system more fair across the board. So, depressing news about the state of funding in Colorado and how little there is. But we do have a solution, right? We do have some hope here. So it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. Protect Colorado's Future is trying to get a graduated income tax on the ballot. Most states have a graduated income tax. In fact, Colorado also had a graduated income tax until 1987. So from the time we became a state until the late 80s, we had this already. So we got a flat income tax in the late 80s, and I've only had that for the last, gosh, almost 40 years now. So what this does, Initiative 195, will strike that sentence from Tabor, again, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that requires all income to be taxed at the same rate. It decreases taxes on any income that is under $500,000 a year. It raises the tax rates on any income over $500,000 a year, which is the top 2 to 3% of income earners here in Colorado. This is estimated to raise $2.7 billion of new revenue that will only be used to supplement funding for those three critically underfunded programs: education, healthcare, and childcare. This also applies the same graduated income tax structure to corporations, which that it'll give breaks to those making less than $500,000 in profits annually. And I want to make a quick note on this because I know I've had a lot of folks raise their eyes at me like, wait a minute, businesses, how is this is going to hurt local businesses? And my answer to you is there was an analysis done by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy on our measure, and it found that 94% of the revenue from increased corporate taxes with this measure was from non-resident businesses or businesses outside of Colorado. And it also is the tax on their net revenue, not their gross revenue. Okay, and then we have built-in accountability here in this measure. So we require in the measure that there is an annual audit of allocation to ensure that this funding, again, that $2 billion, is going to education, childcare, and healthcare. And finally, something that we get a lot, this is not going to change Tabor rebates. It has no effect on Tabor rebates. Those will still happen, again, when there is revenue left over, which hasn't been much in recent years, but there is no change to Tabor rebates. Okay. So this is a little bit of an explainer as to kind of like what our current situation is and how it will change under the graduated income tax. So right now, every income is taxed at 4.4%. And then going forward, we have those new tax rates on the right. I do want to emphasize that in a graduated income tax system, it's taxing income, not the individual. So the first $25,000 that you make is taxed at 3.7%. The next 25,000 to 100,000 is taxed at 4.2, and so on and so forth. So if you make $500,000, you're like anything above $500,000 will be taxed at that 7.4%. And then anything over $1 million is taxed at 8.4. Again, there's only three eligible uses of revenue: education, childcare, and healthcare. And so what we have in our campaign, again, we have policy experts, healthcare experts, childcare experts, education experts. Like we have a lot of folks, and we have kind of a prescription really of what we would suggest to spend the money on, but ultimately it is up to the legislature's discretion. And so this is vague for a reason. Like we want to make sure that this pot of money is able to go to where it's needed, depending on what the communities need in regards to each of these buckets. Some of the suggestions that we have and some of the most pressing or more devastating cuts that we've seen recently that we think this funding would supplement is, again, increasing pay to attract and retain great teachers, making healthcare more affordable, replacing those federal Medicaid funds that were cut, increasing access to mental and behavioral health care, supporting rural hospitals and clinics, and then, of course, in childcare, helping families afford childcare, increasing pay to attract and retain great childcare providers, right? We want our population to be educated. We want them to be healthy. We want parents to have reliable childcare so that they can go to work and just live their lives and know that their children are in good hands. So we know that this makes society better. We know that this makes Colorado better. And we really believe that it is time to invest in Colorado in this way. So kind of where the campaign is right now. We are in the signature gathering phase. So we are looking to collect 200,000 signatures by July. And we need 2% of registered voters from all 35 Senate districts. So you may have seen us out and about. We are in the middle of collecting all the signatures from across the state and are also looking for signature gatherers, which I'll get into kind of how to get involved. But our last day to submit signatures is August 3rd. And then once we qualify for the ballot, of course, the big step ahead is convincing all of Colorado that this is a really critical next step in funding these vital programs. So I'm happy to take questions after this too, but really what you can do is communicate this measure to your friends and family and neighbors. We need folks to talk about this and why it's important. Oftentimes, a lot of folks either think we already have this. I've talked to so many people that are like, don't we already have a graduated income tax? And I'm like, nope, we do not. It seems like we would. You can request a presentation from our campaign. I myself am not a tax policy expert, but like I said, we got plenty of them. So if you want a tax policy person to really come and get into the weeds, we'd be happy to. If you want someone in healthcare or in education that can get into the weeds as to how this funding will help those specific areas, we can do that as well. We also really encourage you to join the effort. You can endorse the campaign as an individual or as an organization. You can help us collect signatures as a circulator. You can donate to support our circulation efforts and to support our volunteers. And then you can just join an event. We have on our website, protectcoloradosfuture.com, we have upcoming signing opportunities. So where you can sign the petition if you just want to sign. And also you can get involved in that way and sign up for a petition training. So a lot of different ways to get involved. Again, signing up for a petition training, happy to send a follow-up to with these links as well. But donate to the campaign, or like I said, bring this presentation to your community, to other groups that you're a part of, really wanting to spread this message far and wide. So this is my contact information, Erin at protectcoloradosfuture.com. We also have our volunteer email there. I'm happy to send you any links, send you any resources that we have. Something I do want to point out is we have a tax calculator on our website. I wonder if I can click this. We have a tax calculator on our website where you can actually see how much your income tax will change under this measure. Again, estimate it. But you will see, if you make $75,000 a year, this is your current flat tax, and then under the graduated income tax, what you'll change. And then, of course, you see as it gets higher, how much more you'll pay, and how much more the folks who are making that kind of money will pay. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and happy to take any questions. I saw there was a lot of folks in the chat, so I wasn't able to to monitor it, but yeah.
We do have a question for Erin. How was the tax decision made regarding tax percentages?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just saw that in the chat. Yeah, so the Bell Policy Center and the Colorado Fiscal Institute are our big policy tax folks behind this measure. And I believe because I don't know for sure, so don't quote me. But my understanding, because all the policy was made kind of last summer over the last few years with the Colorado Fiscal Institute, and they compared graduated income tax brackets with other states that we have in the country and kind of determine what percentages would provide enough revenue to be impactful based on how many people make over 100,000 versus 500,000 versus a million in Colorado. So kind of compare and contrast.